Modern horses are found in layers with and lower than the ancient horses. The ancient horse is not a horse at all. It's a hyrax, still alive today in South America. It's the size of a fox. It's a meat-eating animal. There's no relation. The ribs are different, the toes are different, the teeth are different. It's just pure propaganda to arrange them in some fictitious order. That is not the way they're found at all. Tulsa Zoo finally took out their horse evolution display because so many people complained about it being inaccurate. I think that's fair. Yale University still has theirs, and I suspect your textbooks here still have theirs. Because after all, what would we replace it with? Arranging things in order doesn't prove a thing, folks. If I get buried on top of a hamster, that doesn't prove he's my grandpa. The order of burial proves nothing. And I think the fossil evidence is indicating that there was a worldwide flood and it shuffled these things around for several months during this flood. And animals are... By the way, if I handed a geologist at your university a piece of limestone and said, would you please tell me if this is Cambrian limestone, Jurassic limestone, Permian limestone? I mean, limestone's found in all the different eras. How do you know the age of the limestone? There is only one way they can tell the age of that limestone. By the index fossils. The fossils determine the age of the rock layer it comes from. But the rock layer determines the age of the fossils that are in it. Circular reasoning, folks, that's what it's based on. We can talk for several days on that if you'd like. I've arranged stuff in order for years. I proved knives evolved to forks very slowly over millions of years. I even found the missing link. Right between forks and spoons. There's the missing link right there. Just arranging something in order doesn't prove anything, folks. Can't believe textbooks are now telling the kids that birds are the descendants of dinosaurs. How absurd can you get? You don't just stick a few feathers on them and say, come on, man, let's go, you can do it. It's not quite that simple, folks. The birds have feathers, obviously. Reptiles have scales. This textbook says bird feathers evolved from the same scales that protected the dinosaurs so well. Nobody's ever seen that happen. First place, feathers and scales come from different genes on the chromosome. Secondly, they're both made out of keratin, and that's where the similarity stops. They attach to the skin or to the body differently. Feathers are an extremely complex structure. Extremely complex. Now, if you want to believe that came from a frayed scale from an animal trying to chase insects and catch them with his flappers, feathers on his wings, you're welcome to believe that, but that's not science. That's, again, part of somebody's religion. Problems with the bird evolution. The lungs are totally different between birds and reptiles. One have a sac-type lung, reptiles do, birds have a tubular-type lung. Modern birds are found in layers with and lower than the dinosaurs. Scales and feathers attach to the body differently and develop from different genes on the chromosomes. Birds have a 4-chambered heart, reptiles have a 3-chambered heart. Reptiles lay leathery eggs. There are literally thousands of differences. I don't care if somebody wants to believe dinosaurs turned to birds. They can believe that if they want. But don't use my money to put it in our schools to teach it to my kids. Now, if these folks want to go start a private school and teach evolution to whoever wants to pay and come learn it, that's fine. But they know that endeavor would fall flat on its face in a hurry. So the only way you can push this evolution religion is to get all the taxpayers to pay for it in a university like this. That's not fair. Swinson, British Museum of Natural History, largest fossil collection in the world, said the evolutionary origin of birds is largely a matter of deduction. There is no fossil evidence of the stages through which the remarkable change from reptile to bird was achieved. But the textbook says, boys and girls, Archaeopteryx is evidence. This is the one they always use, Archaeopteryx. They say it has claws on its wings, which is true. So do 11 other birds, the ostrich, the hoatzin, the turaco, the ibis. Several birds have claws on their wings. And the example here that this proves he used to be a dinosaur is again saying, look, he lost his claws. Okay. That doesn't prove how he got them. That's an example of losing. Same thing with the teeth in the beak. Not many birds have teeth. Archaeopteryx and Hesperornis, the only ones I'm aware of. But some fish have teeth, some don't. Some reptiles have teeth, some don't. Some of you have teeth, some don't. Again, that doesn't prove anything. And that's another example of losing, not gaining. That's not an example that's going to help the evolution theory. Textbook says the coccyx, the tailbone, has no present function. Now, this author is either extremely ignorant of anatomy, or he's a liar desperately trying to find evidence to support his religion. I would be nice and call him stupid. I hope he's not lying deliberately, but he certainly is stupid about anatomy. The tailbone is not a vestigial structure. It'd be nice to have a tail, wouldn't it? Be able to come to the door with 2 sacks of groceries. Charles Darwin said, if my theory be true, numberless intermediate varieties must assuredly have existed. Page 211. Right here. Well, Charlie, what have we found? Largest fossil collection in the world, British Museum of Natural History, Colin Patterson, responded to the question, why didn't you show us any pictures of missing links in your book? Colin Patterson responded, I fully agree with your comments on the lack of evolutionary transitions in my book, if I knew of any, fossil or living. That's interesting. Why would you include a living creature as a missing link? He said, I would certainly have included them. I will lay it on the line. There is not one such fossil. That's why the whole chain is missing, folks. It's not a missing link we're looking for. Even Stephen Gould said the absence of fossil evidence for intermediary stages has been a persistent and nagging problem for evolution. That's why he and Niles Eldredge have got their theory called punctuated equilibrium. Now, Goldschmidt came up with this earlier, in the 1940s, I believe, that maybe the hopeful monster theory. You know, maybe a reptile laid an egg and a bird hatched up. And Gould and Eldredge polished it up a little bit, and they said, well, maybe just evolution happened in jumps or leaps. They call it saltations. See, Darwin said evolution happened slowly and gradually over billions of years. Gould and not Eldredge are saying, no, it happened in leaps or jumps, saltations. What they're trying to not say is, because we don't find any evidence, that proves it. See, in their mind, there's only two options. Evolution happened slowly, like Charlie said, or evolution happened quickly, like Stephen said. There is another option. Didn't happen at all. They don't want to consider that option for some reason. I don't know why. All fossils seem similar to living forms with no undisputed missing links discovered so far.
Yes.
Since we know evolution is a fact, even though there is no evidence, it happened slowly, this proves it happened quickly. That seems to be the logic, folks. I don't know how to handle with that. Professor at the Strasbourg Zoological Museum, can't pronounce his name, Bonauer, he said evolution is a fairy tale for grown-ups. The theory has helped nothing in the progress of science. It is useless. I would like somebody to show me what advancements we have because of the evolutionary theory. It's not why we have electricity. It's not why we have plastics or rayons or fabrics, or it's not why we went to the moon. It has nothing to do with... it's a useless theory. Malcolm Muggeridge said, I'm convinced the theory of evolution will be one of the great jokes in the history books of the future. Posterity will marvel that so flimsy, dubious, and a hypothesis could be accepted with the incredible credulity that it has. Atomic Energy Commission. Scientists who go about teaching that evolution is a fact of life are great con men. The story they are telling may be the greatest hoax ever. In explaining evolution, we do not scale from a fact. Charles Darwin said, to suppose that the eye could have been formed by natural selection seems absurd. But the textbook says the complex structure of the human eye may be the product of millions of years of evolution. They tell the kids, boys and girls, you might better understand how the eye might have evolved if you can picture a series of changes. See, it all takes place in the mind. Macroevolution only takes place in the imagination. We don't find any fossil evidence. We don't find any experimental evidence. It is purely a religion, and I think a silly one. But again, if somebody wants to believe that, that's fine. Just don't put it in our school system. The Bible says God formed the eye. 1 square inch of the back of your retina has 137 million light-sensitive cells. Now, how'd you like to be the electronics engineer and have to wire that thing up in 1 square inch? My daddy did. He's pretty smart, ain't he? I think Satan's using that evolution theory to lead folks to hell. Folks, don't be blinded by it. God loves you. He's got a plan for your life. He made you, and He's willing to forgive you. I had to repent one day and say, Lord, I'm sorry. I didn't believe you made this world. I used to believe in evolution. Lord, I'm sorry. Would you please forgive me? And now I believe in creation. I can't prove either one, but I think mine's more logical and reasonable, and I think the evidence points to it very clearly. Thank you so much.
I'm beginning to sense why I drifted away from Christianity many years ago from that. Can't you have a copy of The Origin of Species? I think that there are a number of many points actually that Kent raised that I'd like to speak to. In The Origin of Species, there's an interesting passage, and you can actually use it to distinguish the first edition of The Origin of Species from the other 5 editions. It's actually the closing passage, which reads that there is a grandeur in this view of life with its several powers having been originally breathed into a few forms or into one, and that while this planet has gone cycling on according to the fixed law of gravity, and then it goes on and on and on. I can tell that this is a first edition, or at least that closing sentence is, because in the second edition and in all subsequent editions, Darwin inserted 2 words such that the sentence then read, "There's a grandeur in this view of life with its several powers having been originally breathed by the Creator," he inserted in the second edition. And I mention this only to make the point that evolution is not a theory about the origin of life in any strict sense of the word. To Darwin, and in its strict sense, the theory of evolution by natural selection as articulated by, as developed by Darwin and as articulated by evolutionary biologists like myself, is a theory of the diversification of life beyond its origin. And in this sense, and I mention this because I know there are a lot of people of great deep faith in this room, that you don't want to confuse those 2 issues. The theory of evolution is not denying the existence of God. It doesn't say anything about the origin of the universe. It doesn't say anything about the origin of matter. It simply doesn't. You're being misled. And it's been my experience in teaching at Wayne State that a large percentage of my students in evolution are actually fundamentalists of one form or another. Not only Christian fundamentalists, but Jewish fundamentalists and Islamic fundamentalists as well. And we talk a great deal about this, and the overwhelming majority of them find that they are able to integrate science, to include evolution into their own religious experience and into their own interpretation of Genesis. And sometimes they have very, very elegant interpretations of Genesis, which seem to me as sound as the very strict interpretation that Kent gives it. So don't be confused by that issue. If I could just have my overhead again, the one, I think it's the second one, the first set of the metaphysical principles. And it's the one that reads that scientific theories must be testable, and to be more explicit, they must be falsifiable. And this idea not only of testability but falsifiability is the great advance in the philosophy of science in the 20th century. The idea is usually attributed to Karl Popper, who died just a few years ago. But certainly Popper's motivation came from the dramatic changes in the physical sciences that occurred when Einstein's theory of relativity came to replace the older concepts of